Hello, hello, it's Charmaine Hammond, and I'm really excited for this webinar today. We are talking about the 3-hour ebooks, and this has been a hot topic. Boy, oh boy, we posted the event that I would be interviewing Ellen, and we had all kinds of signups from around the world, actually, so we've got a great audience today. And I want to dive right in because this has been such a hot topic. I don't want to sort of waste a second. I love the topic of writing books and ebooks because I, too, am an author. I have 5 books out, best-selling books. I'm published with 4 different publishers, and I've loved learning about the different platforms and the ways that we can get our books out into the world. And I'm really enjoying watching what authors are doing to get the story out of their head into the world. So before I introduce Ellen, our expert guest today, I did a little poll on the registrations, and thank you to all of you who answered the questions. Here's the questions and here's the answers. The first question I asked was, have you ever wanted to create a book but didn't know where to start? 54% said yes. So if that was in your head, you're not alone. 54% of the people have said they've also wanted to start a book and they just didn't know where to start or what to do. And then the next question was, I have ideas for 10 books in my head. 35% yes, that said yes to that. And I smile when I say that because that's my story. I have all these ideas floating around in my head. So I'm looking forward to Ellen's information today to help me get that book out of my head and into an ebook. And then the third question was, do you have a book published? And if you do you have an ebook version of it? And 38% said yes. That's the lay of the land that we've got in the room today with us. And you'll notice that we have a chat box. For those of you that are watching on the Webinar Jam platform, there's a chat box. I'm going to keep my eye on that so I can let Ellen know any questions that are coming up. And of course, if there's questions that come up later, you can go on the Facebook event page and I'll let Ellen know if there's a question there that she can help us with and respond to. And also let us know where you're listening from. I know we've got people from all over, so I'd love to know where you're listening from. I know some names that are familiar to me. I see Annette, who I believe is probably in Calgary, so hi Annette. And we've got some other familiar names, Carla from Fort McMurray. Hi Carla. And we've got Carla, I think, from Whitecourt, and other people that I don't know where you're from, so let us know where you're from. I also wanted to mention that this particular webinar series is one webinar in a series of many called Together We Are Strong. And I reached out in May to authors and entrepreneurs that I know in my circle and let them know that there was a devastating situation in Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. And they had undergone some devastating forest fires. More than 80,000 people were evacuated from the community. They were evacuated for 5 weeks. It was just a terrible situation. And the kindness that happened around the world was incredible to watch. How people all around the world rallied around this community, whether they knew there or not. And I was so inspired and touched by that because Fort McMurray was my home for 16 years. And I still spend a lot of time there with my clients and with my friends. So this webinar also supports the Together We Are Strong project, which is United for Fort McMurray. At the end, I'll talk about the campaign a little bit later, and we'd welcome your support to United for Fort McMurray, which is supporting all the social profit organizations in the community as they now go through the process of recovering and rebuilding Fort McMurray. Ellen, I want to appreciate you so much. I think there was like 7 seconds when I put that Facebook post that I wanted to help Fort McMurray and could we do that through education. You were one of the first people, and we don't even know each other.
No, and I've never been to Canada either.
Well, now you have to come and visit us. So I just so appreciate you joining us. And let me share a little bit about Ellen with you, and we're going to dive right in. Ellen, she helps independent professionals, entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, small businesses, and authors to gain instant credibility. I love that. Instant credibility and expert status. She also helps them get more leads and clients with digital publishing and #1 bestseller KDP launches. She'll talk to us about later about that, what that is. Along with building 6- and 7-figure businesses using content marketing. She is a regular contributor to Published Magazine, a #1 best-selling international author, a 2-time Lit Award-winning author, and the recipient of the Be the Change Award, as well as as a Grammy-nominated songwriter. Wow, you are talented, Ellen. That's quite the set of credentials. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, let's dive in. I'm going to ask you the first question because we have a lot of people who said they have 10 books floating around in their head and they haven't got one started yet. So why even write a book? What's the benefits of having a book?
Well, the first thing is what you just said, which is you get instant credibility and expert status. And the reason that is that 81% of people want to write an ebook and less than 1% ever will. And a lot of it is because of exactly what you just said. It's floating around their head and they don't know how to get started. There are a lot of other benefits as well. One is that you can automate the process. So you create it, you put it up, and you make money every single day when you do it right. There are also a lot of great tools that you can use that make it an easy process. And if you're like me, I'm not technical. I mean, I've become much better over time. But when I first started, I couldn't do anything. I had to hire people to do everything. In the first year, most of the money I made did not go in my pocket. It went to paying other people. Over time, the software and everything has gotten easier and better and cheaper. And so, over time, I've learned how to do certain things. But I'll never be a techie. And so, what I love to do is write and talk. And so if you love to write and talk or write or talk, then, this can be a really good business model for you to get involved with. And then when you write a book, it helps you to organize your thinking. And from that, you can create a lot of other products from it, and it makes it really easy. So for instance, right now, I'm creating an audio program for a book that I wrote about a few years ago. And the really cool thing about it is that book needed to be updated. It wasn't getting updated. I thought, okay, well, if I create an audio program and I pre-sell it, then I have to do this. So it got me to A, create another program, and B, update the one I already have. So, it also helps you to get paid. You can give yourself advances. You don't need a publisher. Okay, once you get going and you start to build a list. And books can help you to do that. Books can help you to build your list because it's a low cost, easy way for people to buy something from you and or get free from you and get to know you, like you, and trust you, and then they'll start buying from you.
Love that. I've never actually thought of how a book helps you build your list that way. So I do that all the time, but I never even thought about it from that perspective. So thank you.
Well, and also something I just said, but I didn't verbalize is that you can create a system, where you know what to do in order, and you can do it over and over, and then you're not sitting there going, oh, what do I do now?
Right. So many reasons to write a book. And I know when I wrote my first book, I wasn't actually planning on being an author, Ellen. And I know you've probably heard this from many of the students that you coach, that you have these accidental authors. I wrote a story about my dog Toby and submitted a chicken soup for the soul, and it got accepted. And then I thought, great, now what do I do?
Right.
And then my first book was published, and actually I did a self-published book and then a published book, and boy, oh boy, there's so much to learn about the book industry, isn't there? It's constantly changing. Now, one of the things that we were talking about is starting with an ebook. So from your perspective, what are the benefits of actually starting with an ebook?
Well, I love starting with an ebook. And as a matter of fact, in my business, I haven't even done any books yet. And I don't know if I will because, my industry is always changing so quickly that, you have to decide whether the cost of doing a book is worth it. So the reason I say do an ebook first is because it's cheaper. First of all, it's just cheaper. When you do a book, then you have to think about designing it, inside design, a back cover. There's just more involved, so there's more cost. It takes longer. And then, I mean, the one thing that has been removed that we used to worry about was, oh, it takes so long to do it. Well, now you can do publishing on demand and you can get the books right away. But it still is a bigger cost. And so if, first of all, if you've never done it before, if you're still learning, I don't recommend putting all that cost in before you know what you're doing. And I mean, I've had people come to me. I had a woman come to me who had spent $20,000, and this just blew my mind. She spent $20,000 on her book, and she was in tears because she wanted to work with me, and she didn't have any money left, and her book had done absolutely nothing.
Wow.
So that's another reason I hate to see people put a lot of time, energy, and money into that. When you do an ebook, you can format it. I don't recommend people format it themselves unless they are technical. And a lot of times what will happen is, and I've seen this so many times, where people will try to format it, they can't do it. Then they come to us, and then we not only have to format it, but we have to unformat it before we can reformat it. So it's even more money. And I've even tried people, there's Fiverr. And I haven't had good luck with that either, where it takes a long time. They're on the other side of the world. You can't talk to them. And, so I just recommend going with somebody who's reputable. And of course, we do all the services related to books. But what was I going to say? What were we saying about that? Oh, why, right? Yeah. Why an ebook? And so the other thing is that Amazon has really great tools. So I always tell people, once they've got their book written and done right, and there is a process to do it the right way, then what I love to do and what I suggest my clients do is, when we're talking about nonfiction here, it works with fiction too. It's a little different, but I still recommend it, is doing a bestseller launch. It's called a KDP launch, and you mentioned it at the beginning. And the reason I love doing that is because, first of all, you're giving people value for free, okay? And so they're getting to know you, like you, and trust you, but we only do it for a short amount of time. So we only do it for a couple days. And the really cool thing about it is there are all these announcement sites where you can put it in, it doesn't cost you anything, and it drives all this traffic to your bestseller launch. So what happens is that, let's say you're a newbie and you don't have a list at all, doesn't matter, okay? You can still get to #1. That's what's so great about it. And if you're like me, you're established. I think I've done 3 of my own now, and I've done lots of them for other people. And I have 100% success rate taking people to #1 bestseller when they follow my system. And, when you do that, again, you can use it to build your list. So what you do is, Amazon doesn't tell you who's buying your book. So what you do is you can put a bonus inside that people can get. And now some of those people are going to come onto your list, and then you can continue to market to them. Brilliant. So that's how you start to build a list. And it's not just any list. It's people that are, obviously interested in your topic because they looked at your book. So, so that's how you use it for that. And so I love it to refresh my list. To remind people that the book's there, to remind people that I'm there. And so it just continues to build your credibility. And you can't do that with a book. If you want to give a book away, it costs you money because you have the cost of the book. With an ebook, you pay for the formatting, you stick it up on Kindle, which doesn't cost anything, and you give them away, and then you start selling them, and it didn't cost you. It cost you maybe, under $100, and you're done. So, you start giving away books. And one of the things that I really hate, it works, but I really hate it, is when experts say, get my book, it's free. And then you go to the site and it's not free, it's free plus shipping. Okay. And usually what they do is they make the shipping high enough to cover the cost of the book. So they may not be making anything, but they're not losing anything either. Right. And a lot of times they are making money as well, and they're not really being honest about it. So that's why I love ebooks, because you can definitely give them away for a few days, and then you start making money.
Brilliant strategy. And then when you talk about a 3-hour book, tell us, what is a 3-hour ebook, a 3-hour ebook, and why do specifically the 3-hour ebook approach?
Okay, well, the 3-hour ebook, and people are, how the hell can I possibly do an ebook in 3 hours? Well, here's the thing. A lot of times when people try to write, they get stuck. It's like, first of all, somebody told them they couldn't write. They're not good. They think they're not good enough. They don't know what to write about, whatever. But we all know how to talk. And when you talk, you don't edit yourself, you just talk. Okay. And what most people don't realize is you know more than you think you know. And so, you know, when you start talking, it comes out that, you know, what you know, and you're not thinking about, oh my God, you know, what goes where and all this kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, now I always say, write an outline first. And even before that, actually the first step that most people miss altogether is do the research first. Okay, what you want to do is make sure that there's a market for what you want to write, and also that you're approaching your topic in a way that people are interested in hearing it, because sometimes they're not. And so, you know, for instance, I had somebody who came to me, they wanted to write a book about being fearless. We went and looked on Kindle, and people weren't buying books about being fearless. They were buying books about being fearful and having anxiety. And, you know, and sometimes what you have to do is, or maybe look another way, maybe they were looking for courage, or, you know, some other term or some other way of approaching it. So you have to be careful. And so when people don't do that first, and most people don't, I mean, I know so many people will come and say, oh, well, I'll deal with that later. It's like, no, you need to do that first if you want to make money. That is the most important thing. Okay. Then you do their outline, and well, you get your title, then you do your outline. And once you've got your outline, it's easy to talk it because you know what you're going to talk about. You've already laid it out. Okay. And so 1 hour of, let's see, 1 hour of talking, if you do it like we're talking, you know, in an interview type deal, it'll be 40 pages. If you do it, if you do it as a monologue, it'll be around 30 pages. So 3 hours is a 90-page book.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And then you send it out, you have it transcribed. And then if you want, you know, you can tighten it up or not. And, you know, add the other pieces. You know, you can need your table of contents, decide where you want to send people at the end of your book, and you're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You know, as I'm listening to you, I got to share a funny story with you, Ellen. When I was doing my first book, I was just not in a creative flow. I would have these moments of passion and creativity, and my book on Toby's Terms was just flowing. And then other times where it was painful to write and I would try and force it, and I was getting frustrated, and I was on a very tight deadline. And my husband said, Charmaine, you're a speaker. You speak for a living. You speak around the world. You speak on webinars and media. Why don't you try just talking it, and we'll have the voice recognition dragon speak, just record it so that you have something. We didn't even know how to do, you know, an audio into an ebook, but we were using dragon speak because my wrist kept getting sore from all the typing. So he offered it as a solution to help his wife's wrists. And what was so funny for me, Ellen, was that when I sent, I think it was 3 chapters, when I sent those 3 chapters to my editor just to look at, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, this way was working. Of course, once it dragon speak typed it out, I had to edit it and do some work on it. But what my editor said was, Charmaine, holy smokes, what did you do differently here? And I didn't know what she meant. And she said, these 3 chapters.
It flows better, right?
Totally. She said it flows better. It was emotive. I was painting the picture for the reader. So it felt more authentic. It felt like me. And she said, you need to write the rest of your book that way. You're a better speaker than you are a writer.
Yeah, and some people are. Some people are. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to work with people where I help them set it up and we just do it that way. And I was working with this one guy, and he was a bodybuilder, and he'd actually written a book already. And the book, he wanted to get to consumers, and the book was very technical. And I was kind of his target market, you know, just a regular person. And I said, no way are you going to connect to people with this book. You really need a prequel to this book because this is too involved for a lot of people. And he said, okay. And he went and he started, you know, gathering all these things on how to write ebooks and stuff. And he brought them to me, and I said, oh my God, if I tried to do this, I would never write a single thing. This is like so complicated. It's not hard. You know, forget this. I said, we're going to do this as an interview. And he said, okay, when are we going to do that? I said, now. He said, now? I said, yeah. So, you know, so we sat there and we laid it out, and it was a short one because he already had a book. And, you know, and in about 45 minutes or an hour, it was done. And he was like, oh my God, oh my God, it's like, just, you can think about this stuff forever, or you can just, work with me or find somebody else, or just take the process if it makes sense to you and do it on your own. But, but just try it. Just try it. You have nothing to lose.
I think that's the fear for a lot of people in wanting to write a book or share their story, or even share their content with corporations that they speak at. It's that whole, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get started. It feels like it's going to take forever. And what you've done is, through your approach, is you've taken away the two biggest fears that that stop us. So I kind of think, wow, I'm running out of an excuse now to do my next ebook.
Well, there is one other. Yeah, well, there is one other. I actually run a mastermind with a partner, and we started a new one yesterday. And this was one that always comes up, which is, she was saying, I have it all ready to go, and I can't start. I can't do it. And, as we talk, what comes up is, I don't think I'm good enough, or I'm afraid it's not going to be good enough. And then the extension is, I'm not good enough. And so what people have to understand is, if you've been on this planet for any length of time, and I assume since you're here that you have been, then you know something about something, and it's always best to start with what you know. That's always the best, easiest way to write. And when I got on the internet, I had been a copy editor and a layout person in another life before I went in the music business. And so I had those skills, and I started looking around. I was really enamored with the internet, like a lot of people get. And I thought, well, I can't be an internet expert because these guys are already established, and I can't catch up to them. And, what's my skill? What am I good at? So I started with copy because that's what I knew. And so I was doing that. And then I realized that two things. One is, people didn't understand, that when you write copy for somebody, it's not whether they like it, it's whether it sells for them. And two, it's per hour. Like, you can't really scale it, And so finally, I decided to write an ebook when I found ebooks, because I wanted to write books. I'd wanted to for a long time. And I think you reach a certain point in your life where you finally feel ready to do that. I think a lot of times when people are young, they think like, unless they're like the internet marketing type, and go, oh, I know how to find a keyword and just hire someone and write something. But if you have a passion and a message, it usually takes time to develop that, And so, then once you do that, then you know it. And I've even had a woman who had an MBA, and she was sitting there saying, I don't think I have enough credentials. I was like, are you kidding me? You have more credentials than 90% of the people that ever do this. Wow. So, and I think women have a harder time than men. I think that, women tend to have less self-confidence, and they tend to think that they need more credentials and more expertise and more education before they can do this. And you don't need it. So that's what happened to me. It's like, I got on, I went looking for an ebook. I found there were no coaches at that point. So I found an ebook on writing ebooks, and I wrote it, and I needed more help, and there was nobody to help me. I hired a regular coach, and it didn't work out very well. It was very expensive, and it was like, I'd make the mistake, and then he'd tell me what to do, because he didn't have a system. And so I put one together, and I became the very first ebook coach. And in those days, books and ebooks were different. Now it's all the same, and I work with books, ebooks, and it's all fluid. But that's the deal. It's like, you just have to have that confidence in yourself, or get in a group or get a coach, and let them give it to you. But I find that people that want to write this tend to know more than most people, and when they don't do it, it's that they just don't have the confidence and the system.
Interesting. One of the things that's popping up for me when I look at some of the folks that are joining us live today, I know some of them are speakers, and some speak in the entrepreneur world, some speak in the nonprofit world, some speak in the corporate world. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, lots of them have radio interviews they've done, or webinars, or telesummits. Can you take like a webinar or a 3-part webinar series?
Oh, yeah.
Telesummit, make an ebook?
Absolutely. I have a book called Real Easy eBooks, 8 Ways to Write or Repurpose Content into a Bestseller. And that book originally came together because I used to do these telesummits long before everybody was doing them. And I had these interviews. And, one was how to write a book with a blog, and how to write a book with articles, and how to write, all these different things. And I went, oh my God, this would be really easy to make a book. And so that's what I did.
Love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've written books all different ways. I've written books from scratch, outlines. I've written them, this way with the interviews. I've compiled interviews. I've taken it from a PowerPoint. So, I mean, there's a million different ways to do a book.
Yes.
But,
And then
but here's the thing, regardless of how you do it, make sure you have a market. That is, like, I can't say it enough because people don't do it. Make sure you have a market, make sure you know how to connect to your market. And one thing people can do is they can get my free planner. I'm going to be moving it, but right now it's at www.kickitwithkindle.com. Kickitwithkindle.com.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat box.
I'm moving it because it's got the word Kindle in it, and I don't think you're supposed to do that now, but I didn't know when I did it, so.
Wow. So kickitwithkindle.com. And so when you're talking right now about sort of this whole know your market and you find your market, I agree with you on that, Ellen. When I wrote my first book, I actually didn't consider my market when I started writing.
Most people don't.
I thought everyone will love my book. Everyone. And everyone's, the question that kept coming back to me is, who is everyone? And, when I found when I was able to narrow down on who really would appreciate my book, it was way easier to write it. But the other thing, you've alluded to this, is that while you're writing it and you're writing to your market, you're already thinking about your marketing strategy at the same time. It's something that you're sort of doing in parallel. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're always marketing.
Right.
Okay. So you market before you write the book. You're thinking about your market while you're writing your book, and then of course after. So you're never not marketing. And one of the things I learned very early on, I wrote a book many years ago with Jim Edwards, and he's one of the top people in the internet universe. And he was one of my guests at one of my expos, and he said, if you are not a marketer first as an author, forget it. You have to think as a marketer first and an author second. And that is very hard for authors to do when they want to be an author and they don't want to be a marketer.
Yes.
Okay. And I was no different. When I got on, I wanted to write books. I didn't want to be a marketer. And to this day, I'm a stronger writer than I am a marketer. Okay. But you learn, and things change. I mean, now it's like, I'm a much better marketer than I was. Why? Because social media happened and I love it. Okay. So I'm on Facebook all the time, but it's not work. It's, when I get off doing what I'm done doing and my husband's hanging out watching TV, I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
Me
too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, isn't that kind of how we connected?
Yeah. It's exactly how we connected through Facebook. I love that.
Yeah.
So we've got our ideas. We work on figuring out who our market is. We start to work on our outline, pull that content together. We're quickly moving towards the ebook. How do we get the ebook, sort of get the content then into the format that we need to market the book? What kind of steps have to happen at that level to get it ready for sale or for a KDP launch?
Well, first of all, there are no pages when you do ebooks. Okay, so the first thing is you take the page numbers out, and that's because each site and each reader is different. So the cool thing about it, when you're starting is you don't have to worry about design because there is no design. Okay, what you do have to do though is, because there's no page numbers, you have to be able to click through from your table of contents to the different areas in your book. So that's, part of the formatting.
Right.
And then it has to be in, you can do Word, EPUB, or Mobi, but I have found, for me, I haven't been able to do a Word doc and have it work in, in Kindle, but other people who are very savvy at this, some know how to do that. And if you can do that, it's great, because then it's easy to change when you want to make changes. Whereas with an EPUB or a Mobi, you have to redo the whole thing. So, so there's pros and cons of that. And as I said, you need your table of contents, you need limited liability, you need to tell people, is it free or not free? You need to tell people, if they're going to get a bonus, and then if they are, you've got to send them to a site to opt in to get the bonus. And then you'll need an autoresponder to continue to market to them. And I like to put one in the front and maybe one in the back or throughout the book. And again, it depends on what your book says in the book, okay?
Right.
Because if you've got something where you can send people, you know, to get extra bonuses based on a chapter, they're going to be very inclined to do that. But if you don't have that, then you might, you know, wait till the end of the book. So, I mean, it just depends.
Right.
You know, sometimes people have something in the footer that goes all the way through, and sometimes they don't. So each book is different.
Yeah.
You know.
The
one thing that I will say, though, that sometimes people do is they put too many resources in the back that send them to away from their site, send them to other people. I don't recommend doing that. I mean, if you are recommending something that's right on topic, there's nothing wrong with it. But I've seen people have resources in the back that go on for pages, and they're sending them all these different places, and then it's really hard to keep them focused.
Wow,
on what, you know, on what it is you want them to do.
Well, I like the fact that you're saying it also sends them away from your site or your content.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we think we're being generous with our information, but we also want to build a relationship.
Right. So you have to do it strategically. You have to do it
Yes.
strategically, not just willy-nilly, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that really surprised me, I remember when my first book went from print format also into ebook, and I was surprised how many people, you know, where ebooks really is their choice. And one of the things that was really cool for me to learn was also that when we did a blog tour, a blog book tour, I think it was with our first book, we had about 30 bloggers that all came on in the course of the month to help launch our book. Now, we did this with the print version. And what was really helpful for me to understand is we hadn't actually got the print version into e-version when I went with that launch approach.
Right.
And I would say 80% of the bloggers that were going to participate in the blog campaign, they all wanted the e-format. And so it quickly, you know, quickly inspired us to get the ebook going quicker for that. But, you know, it was so, what I love about it too, as an author, is that having my books in e-format, when people are wanting to review my book or when media wants to have a copy of the book, it's so easy to just send it. It is
absolutely
expensive to send a book. It costs me right now, my On Toby's Terms or GPS Your Best Life, you know, basically costs about $10 to send within Canada. So if I send to the States, it's $13. Just about the same price as the book. So from a financial perspective for authors, especially if you're starting out, ebooks are just so helpful in the bigger scheme of the whole marketing and sales as well.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying before. Yeah, they're cheaper, they're easier, they're faster. Yeah.
On every level, you got it.
Yeah.
And when you think about bestsellers, because I know that so many authors, regardless of whether they're writing fiction or nonfiction, adults books or children's books, their goal is to become a bestseller. What tips do you have for authors when they're working with their ebooks to make their ebooks a bestseller?
Well, the first thing is men and women approach it differently. So women make more buying decisions than men. And so the women are going to look at the title first. So that's your first line of defense. And I heard that from Ty Cohen, and I really like that analogy. So I'm stealing it. But anyway, so you've got to write a great title, but you also want to write a title that it is kind of in a range. So when you go to the Google keyword tool, you want to find one between 10 and 100,000 clicks. So and then you can find a keyword or a phrase, and then you can build a title around that. I also take people over to Kindle, and I do a whole analysis when I work with people one-on-one. And it's not like I can say do this, this, and this. It's sort of intuitive what I do, but it's kind of like, after being in the music business for 20 years, this is where my particular talent comes in. Is I've been playing with words all my life, and I'm pretty good at it, you know. And so when people work with me, and somebody was saying on the call yesterday, the mastermind, saying that, you know, they get a different perspective from me than the way they're looking at it, because I have my own intuitive process, and I've been doing this for so long that just certain things stick out to me. But the idea is that regardless, you've got to have a great title. And too many times people focus on writing the book and then they slap a title on at the end. Absolutely do not do that. I mean, you're going to make way more sales from having a great title and a great cover than you're ever going to make from what's in the book, unfortunately.
Wow.
So that's really important. And then you also, the other thing is you need reviews. I can't believe it. It's like so many times I'm working with a client and I go in there and they have no reviews. Well, nobody's going to buy your book with no reviews because they don't know if it's any good or not. And they might, if they're really interested, I mean, they might take the time to look inside. But usually it's like if you didn't even bother to get some reviews, it's like, why should I bother to look inside? Why should I bother to read this?
Yes.
So those are really the important things. And then, of course, just knowing about KDP, knowing that that's how you can get going really fast, and then learning how to do that, get it in the announcement sites. We can do it for you. I have a team that does it. They won't even tell me what their secret sauce is, but they're just killer at doing it. So I just sit there and they just, take it up to number one. And of course I watch it to make sure it gets there, but but they do the hard work. And those are really the key things. Have a great title, have a great cover, of course, write great content, the best that you can, and also, add something new to the conversation. If you can't just take somebody else's book and rewrite it. I mean, you got to add your own spin. You got to have your own twist, your own angle. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to stand out from the crowd. And you also have to know the competition, because then what's already out there, so how you're different. So.
Yes.
I was working with a guy, and we were a chiropractor who came to me, and he'd already written his book. And we were in there, and I found this other book from this doctor. And I said, oh my God, this sounds just like your book. And he goes, I don't know, he's the big expert in everything, but my book does this, this, and this, and his doesn't do that. And I go, well, I don't get that from your title. From your title, it sounds just like his book. And if he's the expert already and you're not, I'm going to buy his book. Yeah. So you better know what makes your book unique. And you better get it in your title.
Great strategy. And I'm going to get you back up for a moment. You talked about the importance of keywords, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I've just started to learn about the Google keyword tool. It's new for me. But can you explain to the audience why keywords in your descriptions and in your title, why that's so important, and how they even start doing that?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're important because it tells you what people are looking for. So you want to be the answer to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so that's the importance of keywords and key phrases. And then, of course, you want to find, if at all possible, you want to find the ones, like I said, that are between 10 and 100,000. And so usually what that means is it's not going to be so generic. It's going to be more, drilled down so that it's more specific. And again, that will help you to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
So, that's the importance of it. And the way you do it is you just go to the Google keyword tool. It's adwords.google.com. I think it's / keyword planner, capital K, capital P, and then the number sign, and then search, all lowercase. But you go there. If you don't have an AdWords account, you have to create one. And you just put in some words that you think your audience would be looking for if they were looking for you. That's how you start.
And that's critical. I'm going to share a story of, I had no idea. I think I knew why keywords were so important, but I didn't get why they were that important. It was sort of, I knew it, but I didn't do anything with it. And so one of the things I did is that I do a lot of speaking and training in the corporate world on leadership, team building, and conflict resolution. And so I emailed 8 of my clients who are all human resource professionals. They've all hired me more than once and know me very well. And I said to them, if you were looking for someone just like me and you didn't know me, what would you punch into Google? So
That's perfect.
Well, Ellen, here's why what you're saying is so important. This is really listen to Ellen here, because so I had my list of what I thought they would type in, and that list is what I've been using for my presentation titles, in my marketing copy, in my blogs, in my social media.
And let me guess, it was wrong.
It was wrong. You're right. So when I asked them what they would Google to find someone that talks about what I talk about, their words were different. So here I was, for many words, I even have a book called Courageous Dialogue, because that's what I came up with this name. I love courageous dialogue as a way of looking at conflict and communication. Well, nobody looks up courageous dialogue if they want to know about conflict. Nobody. Zero.
Right. Well, that's why I don't just look at the Google keyword tool. That's why I go into Kindle and I look at a whole host of parameters. And one of them is, how are other people describing what the titles are that are similar to the one that we're doing?
Exactly. So what really pay attention for everything that you're doing in your business. This that Ellen just talked about right now is golden. And there was a question that just came up from Naomi. Hi, Naomi. What is KDP? So can you explain KDP again for us?
It's Kindle Direct Publishing, and it's a promotional tool. It's not really a tool. I guess it's a process. Whereby you can offer your book for free for up to 5 days out of every 90 days that you give Kindle an exclusive. Perfect. And so that's what it is.
And that's been very instrumental, you were saying earlier, in your marketing and your sales.
Absolutely.
And building traffic.
Yeah, because here's what happens is after you do it for a couple of days, if you do it right and you do it on the right days and the right way and everything, I mean, there is a system to this. But if you do it, and it doesn't have to be specific days, but it kind of has to be, you have to know when your market is going to be online, when they're not online, those kind of things. And then what happens is guess what? You tell people that your book's going to be free for 2 days. And what happens? A certain number of those people they're going to go there, and then they're going to get busy. The kid starts crying, the dog starts barking, and they don't get there in time. So what happens? If you continue to have urgency in it, for a limited period of time, what's going to happen is some of them are going to buy it. And so what you're doing is you're not only getting the word out and giving them the opportunity to get it for free, but some of them aren't, and you're going to make sales. So, you can do this every 90 days, or you can do it, 2 days and 2 days out of every 90 days. And, what I see people do again so often is they do it once and they never do it again. Okay, well, it's a process that you can do over and over. And you can also do it, you're not going to make as many sales and get as big an audience the second time as the first time because you just did it. But you can bring on JV partners, and then you're getting to a whole new group. You can do Facebook ads, and then you're getting to a whole new group. But the first time, you don't have to do anything. You just do it, and then you build on it. And so, but then if you do another book, now you promote that book, not the first book, but guess what? Some people buy the second book or get the second book, and they didn't know about the first book, and now they get that book because Amazon says people who bought this, customers who bought this, also were interested in these. That's not the exact wording, but something like that. And then your other books show up. On top of that, when you do a bestseller list, you get on some of their, notice lists. And then what happens is they notice you, and then they start helping you market. So you'll start getting things from Amazon that will say, check out these books in the business section, and you've written a business book. And now guess what? Oh, my book showed up on theirs today. And how many millions did it go out to? How many millions, from Amazon?
Exactly.
So it all starts working together. And the more you do it, the more it continues to grow. So maybe you start making 500 a month and 1,000, and it just keeps going up the more books that you have.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's so important to not just write the books, but continue to update them and continue to keep everything going.
Love that. One of the questions that came in, this gal can't be with us live today, but is going to be listening to the replay. And her question was, she doesn't have a book, but she's been writing lots of blogs. I think about 2 years, if I remember correctly, and has been doing articles on LinkedIn and some different article sites, and she's got some great content, and she was wondering if it would be worthy of her to take those articles and kind of put them into similar themes and create an ebook, or is it already out there in blog format and people wouldn't want it in an ebook?
No, absolutely do it. I mean, that's what I was saying. I've got a whole chapter in Real Easy eBooks. You can go to realeasyebooks.com. There's a whole chapter on it. I did an interview on that. And how to do it, and I did it. It was with Ann McAdoo, and she laid out a whole grid about step by step how to do it in the book.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that's great news. So when you're listening, go ahead, take those articles and share them with the world, because I guess when we think about it, the articles and the blogs, I mean, they're only being seen by a small portion of our audience anyways.
Right,
and
exactly.
On Amazon, it's a huge audience.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to
Gotcha.
reach way more people.
And if you were to say sort of your biggest win from having ebooks, or even from the folks that you've worked with as a coach, what's the biggest win for them, or what most benefits them in their business or book writing career by having ebooks?
Oh, good question. I think it's just having them. I mean, it's the credibility. It's the credibility. But here's the thing, and I learned this early on. I remember one time I was in a mastermind group right when I was starting out, and somebody in the group was asking for a referral, and I said, "Oh, we'll get this book by this guy." And the mastermind person said, "Oh, well, be careful with that guy because he doesn't write all his own books. Some of them he wrote and some of them he didn't write, and the ones he didn't write aren't as good." And so that's why it's so important that if you're an expert, if you're a thought leader, you need it. The content needs to come from you. Okay, that's why, either doing the interview or writing it yourself doesn't mean you can't work with somebody else to tighten it up, that kind of thing. But it's got to be authentic. It's got to be in your voice, and there has to be some continuity across your books. Yeah. But if as long as you have that, that is the most important thing, is having that credibility and expert status, and the other stuff's all gravy. In a way, I would say that. But see, it depends where you are in the process, because where I am in the process is I've been coaching for 11 years. I'm at the point now where it's like, when I got into this, I wanted to write books. Well, I haven't written that many. Okay, maybe I have 6 or 7, but I should have 20 or 30 by now at least. Why don't I? Because I'm too busy working on other people's stuff. And so one day I woke up and went, whoa, okay, this isn't working for me anymore because I'm not reaching my long-term goals. And so for me, the most important thing about ebooks right now, where I am in my career, is that I can now automate them and create passive streams of income, and I can reach a much bigger audience. So again, it depends where you are. As a newbie, I think the most important thing is that you can get out there. You don't need a list. You don't need a whole lot of stuff going on, and you can get started. So I think it really depends on where you are in the process.
Beautiful. Wow, I can't believe how fast time goes when we were talking about topics that we love. Mm-hmm. Wow, this has been such rich content. One question I'm going to ask you as we start to pull this together, if people listening today are going to step into action, which is always our hope, that people take the information they've learned and step into action, what would be your tip for people to step away and do something today to get started on this? What should they do?
Well, as I said, go to Kick It with Kindle and get the free keyword planner, because that's where you need to start. That's where you need to start.
I'm going to type it in the chat box here. Kick It with Kindle.
.com.
Perfect.
And then if they want to learn more, they can go to the main website, which is bestsellerbusinessblueprint.com.
Bestsellerblueprint.com.
Bestsellerbusinessblueprint.com. Bestseller business
blueprint. Perfect. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And I'll put that in the follow-up email, folks, too, so you have all the links. Ellen's mentioned a few awesome links as resources. I'll send those all to you. And, it's so important as we're going through the process of getting our book out to the world, our story out to the world, because there's everyone has something inside them to share. I mean, how many people said, was it 38% of the people said they've got 10 books inside waiting to get
right.
And, the world needs your content. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, there's so many books about, that. Right. For example, right. I write on conflict resolution. I could say there's so many books, but, not everyone teaches or talks about conflict resolution like I do. And it's the same for each of you listening. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the things. I hear that a lot, too, that it's already saturated. And one of the things that I say, it's actually even in the book that I'm updating now, is there's no such thing as a saturated topic, okay? Everybody get that. There's no such thing as a saturated topic, as long as you know what the competition is doing and you have something to offer, that's different, and, or said a different way, that you infuse your personality into it. And again, the whole reason that I'm actually rebranding from the ebook coach to bestseller business blueprint is twofold. One is that, as I said, when I started, books and ebooks were different, and now it's all fluid. But number two is I've created a system. It's a system that takes bestsellers and business and uses them together, to grow your business. So that's my unique thing. Okay, nobody else does it exactly the way I do it, and nobody has a step-by-step that takes you through the entire system. Okay, so and nobody else has a Grammy nomination, right? So nobody else. Right? Nobody else has now. Most people, I don't want you to freak out, because most people, of course, don't have anything that unique, but you do have something that you're really good at. And the other thing that I want to say about that is that you grow over time too. When I started, Kindle didn't exist. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. So we didn't have WordPress, we didn't have blog, we didn't have any of this stuff. So, but the thing is that what you do is you start where you are and you grow as things change. And I fell into being the bestseller person because I was going there and I was doing this research with people for their titles, and I figured it out. And so then I started, doing this for people, doing these bestseller launches. And I became really, well known for doing these for people. So as I said, it didn't even exist when I started, but then you go, okay, well, but I do more than that. So how do I take that and incorporate it so people know that, I do that and it's one of my main things, but it's not the whole thing. So that's how you grow. You grow because your circumstances change, and what's going on changes. So yeah. And that piece about adding something new. And like you said, sometimes the new is just you're just different than the other people. There's some people who love really touchy-feely Mother Earth types to teach them. That's not me. So if that's the kind of teacher they want, they're not going to come to me. Okay, because that's not the kind of teacher I'm the kind of teacher that's going to tell them the truth, kick their butt a little bit, not too much, and and get them where they're trying to go. And then there are other people who love that I'm the kind of a no-nonsense kind of a person, and and they love that I always over-deliver and that kind of thing. So you'll find, what's your thing. When I do this mastermind, my partner, she's so good, Betsy Hall, she's so good at giving people a pat on the back, and she's sort of the Mother Earth person. So that's why I love doing it with her, because I give the content and I tell them what to do, and then she gives the motherly love, and I give kudos too, but we just do it in a totally different way. And so that's the whole thing, is you find out what your strengths are, and you do it from that place. That's
beautifully said.
But what I was also going to say is, and if people go to Kick It with Kindle, they go to the site and they feel like they need more, I do bestseller business free consultations, and so they can always find me on the website and schedule one. So
wonderful. And you can easily find Ellen because she's also on our Facebook event page, and I'm gonna keep watching that every day for questions that are coming up. And I really want to appreciate everyone who is supporting Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada already as they recover. The community is, many people are back home. There's still a lot of people that haven't returned yet to the community, and they have a lot of work to do. I was just there, I think it was 3 weeks ago now. And on the screen, some of you that are on the platform can see the screen for the United Way, United for Fort McMurray campaign. This is a campaign where United Way in Fort McMurray is raising funds, and all of their funds will go to the social profit nonprofit organizations and those community groups that are helping the community rebuild. And the work that they're doing is so important there, whether it's helping pets that have been rescued and need to be reunited with their families, whether it's people who are needing services from the food bank, whether it's people that are needing counseling or crisis intervention. Those are the organizations that are really helping the community come back together to be resilient. So if you're inspired, if it resonates with you, please go on and make a donation to United for Fort McMurray. And I will deeply, deeply appreciate that support for all of those individuals in the community. And Ellen, thank you so much for coming on with two hands up in the air saying, heck yes, count me in for this. We didn't even know each other, and I feel like I've got a new friend in you, so thank you so much.
Yes, well, that's, you're so welcome, and I'm always happy to help. And I'll tell you something. I was just thinking about this while you were saying that about the Fort Murray, is that I rarely say no, and especially to a good cause, I never say no. But, when people say to me, well, how come you were successful so fast? I started making money right away. I mean, I made $13,000 in my first 6 weeks and just went on from there, and six figures in 2.5 years. But all I did was I took action, and I thought I could do it. That's the bottom line, is I thought I could do it. It never occurred to me that I couldn't do it.
Wow.
So
beautiful. I love that. You never considered that it couldn't happen.
Exactly. And so, if you're feeling like you don't think that it can happen, then you really need to work on the mindset. You really do, because it won't happen. What does that say? If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So really, it's just, having the focus, having the motivation, taking the action, and believing that it's going to work. And guess what? Sometimes it doesn't work. And when it doesn't, you just keep doing it till it does. And I can't tell you how many different models I tried over the years. Believe me, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars. And you know what? In the end, I said, it was the day I said, oh, I should have had a V8. The day when it hit me over the head, where I said, okay, this one says he's making less money this way. This one says this way. But guess what? I got on here because I wanted to write books. And I'm not even doing the whole process. I'm doing, a piece here, a piece there, but I'm not systematically doing my own process, because I'm looking at what everybody else is doing. And oh my God, they're making more. They're doing this faster, or, so-and-so wants to work with them and they never asked me, or, whatever. We all do this crazy stuff. And finally I said, okay, blinders, focus. This is what I want, and this is how to get there. So that's why I say, if other people feel like writing, automating, systematizing is the thing, then the bestseller business blueprint is for them. If they love video, then go study with a video guru. If they think LinkedIn is the way to go that way. I mean, I tried that, and I put my heart into it, and I just didn't like it. And so no, even though I felt guilty not doing it, because I'd gotten all this, instruction and everything. And I said, hey, it's not going to happen because I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Now I get up in the morning and I go, oh, wow, I get to work on this thing that I really want to do,
Yeah, that makes such a big, I totally get that. That makes such a big difference.
Yeah, well, I get to work with people I love, and I get to automate at the same time. That's that's
it can much better than that.
Exactly.
So here's my challenge to everyone. I would love for you to keep us posted on the Facebook event page. You can find that through my name, Charmaine Hammond, or if you were on the Facebook event page, it's called 3 Hour eBooks. And of course, it's today's date. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know what you're working on. Let us be champions for your book idea. If you have your ebooks, I'd love to see what they're about. Post them on the link there. And let's stay in touch. This is an important conversation, and I think one that has so much potential for all of us listening. For those of you that joined us live, thank you for being here. And to those of you that are listening later, enjoy this hour, because it is a good one. And to all of you that supported Fort McMurray or will be supporting Fort McMurray, thank you so much for being part of the United for Fort McMurray campaign. And Ellen, again, so appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.